these groups. These we're talking about 218 mainly religious arguments. In other words, the framing of the argument was very religious. When surveys were conducted among groups like Boko Haram, you will find those in the prisons that had been arrested, and the similar results in ISIS prisons in Saudi, Turkey, Iraq, etc. ISIS members and Boko Haram members, let me stick to Boko Haram, only about 8.5, less than 9% of those in prisons joined the group because of a religious motivation. Okay, so those who will say religion is what pushed them in, just less than 9%. About 59 to 71% joined because they were seeking vengeance against the atrocities committed particularly by the Defense and Security Services. Our security services and their atrocities, unfortunately, are responsible for 70% of those they actually end up fighting. However, when you stop to listen to the arguments of the headship and leadership of the organization, you find a very predominantly religious core group. And how do they put the idea together? In Islamic jurisprudence, there's what is called talfiq. Talfiq is usually where you take opinions from other madhabs to solve a problem that your madhab cannot handle. So if, for example, because of Hajj and the crowd, there would be the need, not just for the women and the children to leave earlier to Mina after Muzdalifah, now actually everybody start leaving early. And the Hanbali madhab, for example, has so many opinions regarding where's your miqat and where do you dress your ihram. Do you have to do it either in Mina or can you do it in Jeddah? Can you do this? Can you? So many things that other madhabs would not tolerate, but due to the crowd and inconvenience, the diversity of opinions among madhabs becomes a rahba, for which in usul al-fiqh they call it istihsan. The scholar will pick another kind of evidence to give you ease. So this is a very legitimate thing in Islamic jurisprudence. Most of the Muslim world, Nigeria, West Africa, North Africa, all the way to Libya, are traditionally Maliki. Sudan is Maliki. Malaysia is Shafi. Saudi is predominantly Hanbali. And different parts of the world with their own. But when it comes to Islamic finance, they are 90% Hanafi. Even Nigerian Islamic finance is 90% Hanafi. When, however, it comes to insurance, takaful, everybody goes Maliki. So even though everybody has their madhab, as society changes and contexts change, fatwas also change. All schools of thought agree with that. But they will look at another madhab and take something, but instead of just cherry picking, pick what you want, there's criteria. And so, very briefly, they look at what they call the qawaid of fiqh, the maxims of Islamic jurisprudence, and the maqasid of Sharia, the objectives or higher intent of Islamic jurisprudence, to guide them in when to pick and what to pick from another school. So it's not just arbitrary picking. Traditionally, most scholars are very cautious of this talfiq, of just going and picking from another madhab. So to give an example of why, and I know I sound as if I'm digressing, but I'll try and make the point, because there are two other points I want to make on this. Somebody wants to get married. Regarding marriage, the different madhabs have different conditions. So for example, in the Maliki school, we don't need the bride and groom to be with us saying, yes, I accept the asking and the answering. We don't need their presence. Is that correct? Yeah. They can be at home, one is overseas, one is somewhere else, and the wali or representative can stand in place of those people. Is that okay?
Yes.
In other words, we can have a marriage without really adequate evidence that he said yes and she said yes. That's okay in the Maliki. In the Shafi'i school, the mahar, or what we call sadaqi, you don't have to give anything. You can just promise. Do we agree? I'll pay 50,000 naira? Yeah. At least anytime in the marriage? Yeah. And if I die, it will be taken out of my inheritance. No problem? No problem. In other words, you don't have one kobo, $1, but you can agree. In the Hanbali school, you don't even need money. You'll teach us some verses of the Quran. You'll teach us some hadith, just share some knowledge. It doesn't have to be any particular amount. You just give her a scarf, a bottle of Coke. It's a gift. It's symbolic. It's not a bride price. In fact, during the time of the Prophet ﷺ, a man wanted to marry a Muslim lady, but he was a polytheist. He was not a Muslim. And he asked, would you marry me? She said, no. But if you are ready to embrace Islam, I will take your embracing of Islam as my mahar. And it was accepted. Nothing exchanged. Why? It's not a bride price. It's not the cost of the wife. It's just a symbolic gift. So in the Hanbali, you don't need anything. In the Hanafi school, the moment a woman reaches the age of maturity, intellectual discretion, she's reached that age of rushda where she's old enough to dispose of her own property. Hanafi take it that she's then old enough to dispose of herself, by analogy. And that a wali is only recommended. It's good, it's very good for family, for all sorts of reasons, but without it, the marriage still stands. Now, you got this diversity among the schools. Some simple approach somebody will take is, you know what, this guy says to this lady, hey, they're not married, let's go off together and we'll spend the night together in this hotel. And their friend says, wait a minute, but you guys are not married. Oh, all right. I'll give you a ride in a taxi. Would that be mahar? Yes, no problem. Witnesses, we don't need witnesses. You guys can go and do the marriage on our behalf. And you're old enough so we don't need your parents. And they're off. What you'll have is people having big loopholes to justify all sorts of haram. So to solve that problem, it is no talfiq. Let the scholars do it, not everybody else. When it came to Boko Haram, nearly every argument Boko Haram has, or ISIS, you will find they can trace it to one verse of the Quran, one hadith, in the understanding of a particular scholar. But when you look at what they're doing, it's just like the marriage one. Maliki, Shafi, Hanafi, Hanbali, Zahiri, Shia, nobody, put all of them together, nobody agrees with this kind of marriage that these two people want to go and do. They picked and came up with something new and unique. When you see how a mouse trap is made, the individual pieces of the mouse trap can be used for many things, and they are harmless. But if you know how to couple the thing together, you can produce something that is really dangerous. The extremist ideology is similar to that. Each piece is actually harmless in another mazhab, but they pick and are able to come up with something that every Muslim says, this is not what the Prophet taught us. This is not, but they can say, no, it is, and it suits them. When you look at the new atheist arguments, especially those who are attacking Islam, when you get somebody like Christopher Hitchin, or Richard Dawkins, or Bennett, Sam Harris, and these, in fact, those are the four big guys. But then you will see the other ex-Muslims Ibn Warraq, Hirsi Ali, Irshad Manji and co, etc. When you look at some of the writings of these others, if you ask them, tell me what Islam teaches, they will give you things that even you don't recognize. But each individual, they can say, in Somali culture, which is Shafi, they teach this, female genital mutilation. And Hirsi Ali will say, I was cut there, and that is Islam. And that here, you're not even allowed to ask any questions. The moment you ask questions, you're shut down. It's a religion that is mind-numbing. In other words, her experience with her teachers, and I think some with ours, I was very lucky with the family I grew up in. My mother, Allah yarhamuha, grew up as a Christian, then moved into Hinduism, then into Buddhism, then dabbled a little into Judaism, a little agnosticism, and I'm no more sure. Yeah, until all she could just do is, I believe there's God, I just pray God to help me. She eventually became Muslim, wrote textbooks on Islam, the rest is history. But one thing was, I think, having somebody like that in the family, and I'm not saying this is unique to me, many of us have had a cousin, an uncle, a parent, a brother who has been really open-minded. But one thing that you learn growing up is just ask your questions. Just ask. Allah says, فَاسْأَلُوا أَهْلَ الذِّكْرِ إِن كُنتُمْ لَا تَعْلَمُونَ. Ask those who know if you don't. If you really want to know, ask. There's no such thing as your iman is such that you don't ask questions. Ibrahim alayhi salam asked Allah a question. How do you bring the dead back to life? And Allah asks him, don't you believe? And he says, no, but you know, just to satisfy my curiosity. It's a natural human thing. And Allah responded by showing him a miracle. As pure as angels are, Allah had no problem after telling the angels, Inni ja'ilun fil ard khalifa, I am going to create a vicegerent, a representative on earth. Some of our madams will actually talk about the audacity of the angels. How dare they ask Allah that they are not comfortable with Allah's choice? When they ask Allah, would you create one on earth? You know, أَتَجْعَلُ فِيهَا مَنْ يُفْسِدُ فِيهَا وَيُفْسِدُ الدِّمَاءَ. Would you put on earth one who would cause corruption and shed blood? وَنَحْنُ نُسَبِّحُ بِحَمْدِكَ, while we praise. In other words, to them, that doesn't look like a good idea. And you have to ask, why does Allah have to mention his dialogue with the angels in the Quran, if not to make it clear? He has no problem when he creates intelligent beings for them to ask questions. How many times do people say in the Quran, ask questions to the Prophet, and you hear Allah saying, وَقَالُوا kaza kaza kaza, وَقَالُوا this and that. Over 300 waqalus in the Quran, actually 332 to be specific. And you've got another 332 kul responses. That Allah honors some of the most stupid questions the Jahiliyyah people are asking, but with an answer. We seem to have learned the complete opposite. That when young people ask questions, and the question sounds a bit too tough, who created God? What's wrong with you? That's a stupid question. Yeah. That's the answer, actually, that this person goes away with. Yeah, you're looking at it as, look, I don't know the answer, I have no time. But for this person, remember, for the young child growing in your home, you are the #1 Muslim that he knows. He doesn't know Buhari, Muslim. He doesn't know Umar. He doesn't know Muhammad, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He knows you. And if you can't answer, Islam doesn't have an answer. And if you give a silly answer, Islam has a silly answer. So please, instead of giving a silly answer or keeping quiet, why? If his curiosity keeps disturbing him, he will not stop asking. He will get his answer, but it may not be the answer that you like. So please, if he asks you a question you don't have an answer to, فَاسْأَلُوا أَهْلَ الذِّكْرِ. Go and ask people who know, and take that responsibility. Because قُوا أَنفُسِكُمْ وَأَهْلِيكُمْ نَارٌ. It is a fardu ayn on you. It's an individual responsibility on you. You can't bring people to the world and you don't care about the spiritual legacy you leave behind. You have responsibilities towards them, and part of that responsibility is taking care of their guidance, Nurruddeen, the preservation and promotion of the kind of faith that you are leaving behind. The reason I'm mentioning this is non-Muslim atheists, when they come to criticize Islam, will pick and choose what they want to criticize. Some of